What's going on, everybody? My name is Bendy, and this is Disney Heroes.
Okay, cut! All right, I've had it. Listen, stop. I'll never find out what makes people angry because nobody will stop long enough to talk to me.
Piggy, you're supposed to be on a diet. You weren't thinking of doing anything with that cake there, were you, fat stuff?
Jesus Christ, Kermit. Oof. Okay. So that happened. So, if you couldn't guess by that intro, today we're going to be talking about Kermit. Now, Kermit, I think, is going to be another one kind of similar to Tron, where it's going to be a little bit different of a hero overview, just because, one, Kermit does no damage whatsoever, and two, his whole entire kit is just so weird, and it's kind of difficult to say who he goes good with without saying everybody, because Kermit kind of just goes with literally everybody in the entire game that has any kind of buff, since Kermit is able to just duplicate any buff in the entire game onto the rest of his team. So first, we're going to start with going through his skills and his mods and what his friend discs do and all that stuff like we always do. You guys know how this goes by now. Maybe. Have you? Maybe. Have you seen a video of mine yet? These hero overviews are my favorite ones to make. I love making these. They're so much fun. I love inserting the little tiny movie clips or whatever. I don't know what I'm going to do for Kermit. There's a lot of stuff to go through for Kermit. Maybe I'll just do a bunch of memes because there's a million memes like this fucking picture right here. Either way, I'll figure that out in post. But anyways, let's just get right on into it. So Kermit, he is probably the most famous character in the game besides Mickey. Everyone knows who Kermit is. Everyone was really excited once he joined the game. And he's definitely worthy of being probably the best support in the game right now. He is extremely strong and an extremely good support hero who does a lot for his team, despite not doing any damage whatsoever. So, his skills. White skill right here is immediately just what he's best at.
Someday we'll find it, the rainbow connection.
Passively, his basic attack heals the ally for the least HP for a lot of HP. Note that this goes based off of his basic attack stat. So, if you think about it, if you have heroes that boost basic attack, this is just going to increase Kermit's healing. So, say you put Jim on his team or something like that who boosts basic attack for his team, Kermit is just going to be healing more with his passive healing abilities. Like I said, he does not do any damage at all with any of his skills or anything. So, just keep that in mind. Okay, so what his white skill actually does, Kermit strums a tune for his allies, causing buffs on Kermit and his allies to be duplicated to all other allies who do not have that buff. These duplicated buffs last for 10 seconds, and the duplication has a chance to fail. This is really Kermit's bread and butter right here. He is extremely strong with this ability, and if you've faced any Kermit team, you'll see the ginormous list of buffs that get added on to allies with Kermit right above their head. It's just ridiculously overpowered, I think, and very strong if you have him with the right team.
Yeah, it was okay, but I think you missed a note there.
I think that was your note.
I know the last note was you.
Please, I haven't missed a note in 3 years.
Yeah, more like 3 seconds.
This can duplicate literally anything in the entire game, except I think like exclusive buffs, like say from the Inside Out characters, like Sadness's Sorrows or anger stacks, stuff like that are just exclusive to one hero. I don't think he duplicates those, but anything else in the entire game, Kermit can duplicate. Just note that it does not duplicate permanent boosts in power. For example, Shank with her purple skill has extra armor. This would not be duplicated because this is like a permanent stat boost, whereas Clawhauser, for example, this armor and reality boost that he gets from this purple skill would be boost because this is actually a buff that gets applied over the course of the wave. So you could pair Kermit with Clawhauser to give your team a huge boost in armor and reality. But anyways, let's get back to the rest of his skills. The main point is that Kermit's white skill is really what makes him the best. Now next we have his green skill, Frog Dance.
It's not easy being green.
Kermit does a dance, lowering all enemies' green skill levels by 20 levels and reducing their basic damage by a lot for 8 seconds. Now this one can be very good. It's a little bit situational. I was actually going through a lot of heroes' green skills to see who this would be really good against in particular, and there isn't really a whole lot of green skills that would go too crazy against this. There is quite a few which I will get into in a few minutes. This is another pretty strong ability. This would be very good if you go against a hero that has a green skill with some kind of level base like this, because this would make it so that their green skill has a chance to fail, especially if you're at max level. It's very helpful for that kind of thing. It's slightly situational, but still a very strong ability. His blue skill, Tuned Out.
Dancing cheese.
Dancing cheese?
Kermit strums his banjo, making the frontmost ally invincible for 8 seconds. Kermit gives his team invincibility for a lot of the match, and it can be very annoying to face.
Take the cheese off my chest!
Because this invincibility will get duplicated onto the rest of his team by his white skill. So it's a very nice little combo that he has within his own kit. Very powerful, and it makes your team very difficult to take down if you're not ready for it. Kermit's purple skill, Unsappy Song. When activated, Rainbow Connection also removes any saps from Kermit and his allies. Kermit gains 200 energy per sap he removes, and Kermit grants 2 stacks of hardy to any ally who had a sap removed. Now this is somewhat situational as well. If you're going against any opponent that has sap, this would be a great counter to it. The main sapper that anybody has any kind of real issues with is Cheshire, so this is a huge Cheshire counter actually. So it just removes their sap and it gives them 2 stacks of hardy instead, which is huge because it's just going to prevent a couple debuffs from going off against his allies. So very cool. A little bit situational, but a pretty strong purple skill as well. His red skill, Banjo Boost. Kermit also gains 500 energy when he uses Tuned Out, which is his blue skill. So he's just going to be getting Rainbow Connection off pretty much immediately after he uses his blue skill to make one of his teammates invincible. So like I said, this is a nice little combo that he has within his own kit. When an ally is KO'd, the remaining cooldown of Tuned Out is reduced to 0 seconds. So when an ally dies, he gives the frontmost ally invincibility right off the bat. And then we'll make the rest of his team invincible. So you can see there's a nice little thing we have going on here. Then he gets basic damage boost, which just gives him more healing, skill power, and reality. Oh, I wanted to point out one thing. This will come into play a little bit later, but I wanted to note that he has pretty high skill power compared to many heroes in the game. He also has relatively high evasion, which is kind of cool. I didn't even notice that until right now, to be honest. So he's going to be dodging attacks quite a lot. But other than that, nothing too crazy going on here. He has normal and fantastic crit for some reason, which is completely useless on him. Whatever. So that's his skills. Let's go over to his friend disc and see what they do. His Duck and Bunny disc. Kermit and his allies gain a lot of reality for the first 10 seconds of each wave if there is at least one control role enemy. Kermit gains skill power as well. When Kermit removes a sap from an ally with Unsappy Song, they become invincible for 6 seconds. So this one is a bit situational. This just adds a little bit more on top of his purple skill. It just makes them invincible as well on top of what the purple skill already does. It's a pretty strong ability, but it's really only going to be good if you happen to be going against an opponent that has sap on their team. So this is mainly just another counter to Cheshire. Sap is kind of not used very often as like a strategy, but if you happen to be going against Cheshire, this might be a pretty good way to deal with it if you're having trouble. Now, the Gonzo disc is probably the one that is a lot better and more people use in general. So over here, for the disc power level part, tank heroes on team gain armor and reality, as well as Kermit gains basic damage, which just equals more healing for him per tank role ally. Now this is just a nice boost based on if he has a tank on his team. Pretty cool. But over here is where it really comes into play a little bit more. Buffs that get duplicated from Rainbow Connection last 0.8 seconds longer. Now, I haven't worked on this at all because I'm having a lot of trouble with doing the campaign, so I haven't been able to power up this star level anymore. I don't know what this maxes out at. Maybe it's like 3 or 4 seconds or something like that. Maybe somebody can let me know in the comments what it is, but the added time on the buffs from Rainbow Connection is huge, and will just make Kermit's team even more annoying to deal with if you're not prepared for it. And armor and reality buffs duplicated by Rainbow Connection add 30% more armor and reality to tank role allies. I'm assuming this is going to go to like 80 or 90% or something like that, but this is going to make your tank heroes on your team really tanky, like Clawhauser, Maximus, Slinky. Yeah, so this friend disc I think is the better one overall. This one is pretty good situationally if you just happen to be facing like a Cheshire Cat or something like that, but this one just overall for more general use, this is definitely the one to go with. Alright, so let's move on to the battle badge before we get to the mods.
No, it is not a cookie! It's something to eat that's round and orange! It's an orange! It's an orange!
Now, I actually think Kermit has a pretty good battle badge overall. Definitely a little bit better than most heroes. Once you enhance him, well, actually, let's read what I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit here. So what it does is when it is charged when 4 heroes get invincible. So this could be any invincibility, so it doesn't have to be Kermit's invincibility, but when 4 heroes go invincible on his team, he gains a lot of skill power and more skill power per blue team hero. And then once you enhance the battle badge, which I think is what is going to be actually pretty useful for Kermit, is he gains a team shield of plus 25% of max becomes shield for heroes that lasts 10 seconds. This team shield, it gets applied to everybody, but I'm assuming if, say, one of the shields on his team goes out, Kermit can actually duplicate the shield again onto the teammate, so this shield can actually become like a little bit more of a permanent one with his white skill. So this can actually be a nice little permanent little boost that goes beyond just this 10 seconds that this is supposed to last. So I think his battle badge is actually pretty decent, and I'm planning on enhancing this one pretty soon once I'm able to. But anyways, let's go on to his mods. Now his mods, you have a few options. What a lot of the top players in the game do is they just pack on the green scale mods. This is just going to help you to reduce the basic damage of your opponents. As you can see, I have so far plus 40 on the frog dance here. So this just makes it so that they get about 2 million reduced basic damage just from the green skill for 8 seconds. So this can really reduce the amount of damage that your enemies are doing, especially if there's like a gym or anybody that boosts basic damage on the enemy team, or if there is a hero that uses basic damage, such as the healing here on Kermit, with any like skill with the orange numbers or whatever. This would be great for just reducing the amount of usefulness they get out of their skills as well. So I definitely recommend using the green skill. The other two are level based skills, so they're a little bit less useful overall to put mods on. So what I've done so far is I've given him 3 green skill mods, and then this fourth one, I gave him a reality boost mod. Now you could do either armor or reality. It doesn't really matter which one. I just went with reality personally, just because he has a little bit higher reality, and I like to go with the one that they are a little bit better at. You could also do a shield mod on him. I think a shield mod would actually be pretty decent on Kermit. Just because he can actually duplicate that shield onto the rest of his team. So this could be a nice little like beginning of the wave boost for his entire team defensively. So I think a shield mod is actually pretty decent to go with on Kermit. So you could really go with any of the circle mods you want. I just happen to go with reality. It doesn't really matter. You could also do a speed boost mod so that he gets going even faster. The only ones that I would avoid are, like I said, blue and purple skill mods. I would generally avoid. You can if you want. There is some situations where that might be useful, but I think the green skill mod is better. I would also 100% avoid any crit mods on him because he does no damage whatsoever. So crits on Kermit are completely useless. So just don't do any crit mods and avoid blue and purple, and you'll be fine. You can really do whatever you want beyond that. Alright, so we've gone through his skills, his friend discs, his battle badge, and his mods. Who does he go good with? Well, guys, would you be shocked if I told you that Kermit is good with everybody? I think video done. That's it. There's nothing else to say. Tron is almost 3 million. Alright, just kidding. Alright, so yes, Kermit, really good with literally anybody. The buff duplication is a ridiculous ability, and it can really help against almost any opponent, really. The invincibility that he gives to his teammates constantly from his own abilities is insane, and it keeps everybody on his team safe, no matter who's with it. But Kermit in particular is quite good with invisible teams. So you could pair him with Randall, Darkwing Duck. I'll go to Darkwing Duck just to show. So we have Randall, there's Darkwing Duck down here as well. There's a few other invisibility, but those are the main 2 invisible heroes that benefit from this. But you could put him on an invisible team, and it's just going to make it so that Kermit's entire team goes invisible, and it's just very annoying to face. So that is the thing. I'm sure I kind of already talked about it a little bit before, but Kermit goes great with tanks because of his friend disc, the Gonzo friend disc, giving boost to tanks and also giving them even more armor reality boosts from the Gonzo friend disc. So I already kind of made that clear a little bit, but he's great with tank role heroes. He's also really good with just other supports in general, because most supports give some kind of boost to their team. Doesn't matter what it is really, but the boost that other supports give means that Kermit is just going to be duplicating all of those boosts onto the rest of his team. Reflect is actually another pretty good combo with Kermit, because Kermit can duplicate Reflect as well. So Ian, Ham, Darkwing Duck has Reflect. There's a few other reflectors out there, but mainly Ian is going to be really great to have with him because of the Reflect. So his entire team is going to be getting Reflect, and on top of that, whenever an ally receives Reflect, Ian also gains Reflect for 5 seconds. So anytime that Kermit duplicates the Reflect onto the rest of his team, he's going to be getting even more Reflect. And similarly, there is a crazy trio combo kind of thing going on with Fear, Kermit, and Ian. The three of them together create a crazy little combo. You could even tack on Slinky to make like a really unkillable team. It's extremely annoying to take down due to the constant reflecting that's getting duplicated. Fear gives his shield to the frontmost ally, which also gets duplicated. Slinky also has a lot of shields that get duplicated. And on top of that, Kermit is also giving his entire team invincibility. They're extremely annoying defensively.
You big dumb stupid rotten monster! You make me so mad I don't believe it!
So that's a thing. Kermit is also quite good with speed. You can pair him with Animal. Just anybody that has some kind of speed boost in general, because like I said, Kermit is going to be able to duplicate the speed onto the rest of his team. Gotta go fast. I already kind of mentioned Jim a little bit. Jim's also quite good because of the basic attack boost that he gives, which will get duplicated and also increase the amount of healing that Kermit does. Timon is going to be a good little combo with Kermit because of the Hakuna Matata. Now, the Hakuna Matata gets applied to the entire team at first, but if, especially against a Tron or something like that, Hakuna Matata gets applied to one teammate after Tron removes their buffs or whatever. Kermit can duplicate Hakuna Matata onto the rest of the team again, and then, you know, you just got the whole cycle going all over again. I already kind of mentioned Clawhauser, but Clawhauser is a crazy combo just because of the amount of armor and reality that can be duplicated onto his team. This could also be added in place of Slinky for that team that I mentioned before of Fear, Ian, and Kermit. That's also just going to be extremely annoying to take down. Anyways, I think I've talked about good with enough. He's really just good with everybody. It's kind of insane how versatile Kermit is. He makes any team annoying to deal with, really. Who's he good against? Well, would it shock you guys if I told you that Kermit is good against everybody? Tron is almost 3. Hold on, Bendy. Don't go too crazy now. No matter who you have Kermit with, the team that he is with is going to become extremely bulky, as well as just any other buffs that whatever the team just happens to have. With the purple skill, he's very good against Sap, like Cheshire, Eeyore, Captain Hook, especially with the Ducky and Bunny disc. Heroes with really strong green skills, as I kind of hinted to before, are also very weak to Kermit. So I went through and looked at some of the good heroes with good green skills. You have Kristoff has a very strong green skill. It's just going to be reducing the amount of everything that Sven does. So that's kind of cool. He'll have way less max HP, he deals way less damage. Plus on top of that, it's going to be reducing Sven's basic damage too. So very good counter to Kristoff actually. Angel's green skill is pretty good. Just going to be healing herself a little bit less. Cheshire, doing less damage with the head toss, and if you remember from my Cheshire overview, this head toss does an absolutely absurd amount of damage. So Kermit is a very good counter to Cheshire in general. Timon has a good, just going to be reducing the effects of Hakuna Matata if you have Kermit's green skill go off. Mr. Big is just going to be doing less damage with the Polar Punch, as well as gaining less armor from the Polar Punch. Minnie is just going to make it so that she has a chance to fail with the Bouquet of Flowers, make it so that she can't charm quite as much. I know not many people use Tigger, but Tigger is just going to be doing less damage with his green skill. Also, Kermit is just a good counter to Tigger in general because reducing the basic attack from his green skill will also just reduce the amount of damage that his white, blue skill, and purple skill do. So Kermit is a very good counter to Tigger. Davy also going to be really countered by Kermit's green skill. It's going to be dealing way less damage as well as the white skill. So Davy also very well countered by Kermit with that green skill. And just in general, just keep in mind that Kermit's green skill very heavily counters any skill that has orange numbers in the description, because those are boosted by basic damage. Jim's green skill is just going to make it so that it's less affected for the energized, granted to the allies, blah blah blah. The last one here that I had, I know there's probably many more, but I just mainly wanted to focus on some of the top heroes here. Fairy Godmother too. The Hardy and Energized have a chance to fail, so if you use the green skill on that, that's also going to give that a chance to fail on her teammates as well. Alright, I feel like I've gone on long enough about this, so let's move on to the last section here. How do you deal with Kermit? Now, Kermit is probably one of the toughest heroes to deal with. He has a lot of just very specific counters that I think it's kind of important to actually just use those heroes specifically. So I have a pretty specific list of heroes that I think counter Kermit quite well. The first of which I think is the main counter to Kermit, and the one that I mainly use whenever I'm facing a Kermit myself. Did you guess it? It's up here. Take a wild guess. What do you think it is? It's Tron, you fucking idiot.
This is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Thank you.
Did you say anything other than Tron? Come on. Alright, so why is Tron so good against Kermit? Well, his white skill removes all active buffs from enemies. So, the all those buffs that Kermit gave to his team that got duplicated, they're all just gonna go away. You can just say goodbye to everything that Kermit is good at just with this Tron White skill. Okay, so Tron, the best counter to Kermit. There's a few others that do this. We have Colette, actually. Colette is actually pretty good at countering all this kind of stuff, and I didn't even know. Alright, well, I saw Jessie first, but Jessie's white skill, it steals 4 buffs from the enemy, so she could just steal whatever buffs from Kermit on the enemy team. The only kind of disadvantage to this is you don't know what buffs are going to be stolen, so it could be something that's kind of useless, but they get applied to herself, which is cool. Alright, where's Colette? There you are, Colette. With Colette's purple skill, when enemies get damaged by Onion Blind, which is her white skill, they have all their buffs removed. So if they are above 25% of their HP. So this is probably just going to be one enemy at a time, but it's pretty cool that she can just remove everything from whatever Kermit boosted hero is on the enemy team. Pocahontas with the blue skill, Hummingbird, is also going to remove 2 active buffs from the enemy. This one is probably kind of the worst one of the bunch. It's only 2 of them at a time, but it's every 8 seconds, so I guess this could be helpful, but I don't think it's as crazy. But overall, Tron is definitely the best at buff removing. Another good way to help against Kermit is going to be fatigue. Swedish Chef is the best at doing fatigue.
English Burgerboard is weer de frog's legs.
Uncle Kermit, somebody, anybody,
If you don't know what fatigue does, it gets applied in a similar fashion to Hardy. It gets applied to the enemy, and then it makes it so that a buff does not get applied to them. So fatigue is just going to help make it so that
Kermit can't duplicate as many buffs as he normally would onto his teammates.
Swedish Chef is the best at fatigue, but there's a few others. We also have Sadness. She's also quite good at it. Sadness has fatigue that gets applied by her white skill, 2 stacks of them. There's also Carl, Mim, and I think there's a few others that do it not as well, but Carl, he has fatigue on his green skill, this shouting at the enemy. I don't know why that fatigues them, but sure, whatever. And then you also have Mim with, I think, her green skill. I always forget what her abilities are. There's just so much damn reading with her. Oh, it's when she goes into the Tiger, which is against damage roll enemies. So if you have an enemy team with a lot of damage roll alongside Kermit, could definitely help. Now this is kind of dependent on what teammates Kermit has with him, but as long as Kermit is not paired with an Ian or a Timon or anybody else that will protect him, Mulan can actually take Kermit out right away, just because of the green skill here right at the beginning of the wave, so you don't even have to deal with Kermit at that point.
Did somebody say bang?
No.
Now that's kind of situational, it totally depends on who Kermit is paired with, but as long as Kermit is not protected by Ian or Timon or anybody else that protects him in the back row, Mulan can definitely take him out right away. Another way to potentially help against Kermit is just going to be disables in general. Silence, freeze, stun, stuff like that. Anything that's just going to help stop Kermit in his tracks so that he can't really get going. I think freeze is probably going to be the most effective. Magica can also help quite a bit if you can get her to target Kermit with her white skill. Dash can also get off really quick damage and just take Kermit out before he's able to get started really. And the last bit of counters that I have, because like I said, it's really tough to counter Kermit. This one might be a bit of a stretch actually, this counter. Now I hinted to you in the beginning of the video that Kermit actually has quite a lot of skill power compared to a lot of other top level heroes. If we look at, say, Evil Queen is the first example that I have here. With Evil Queen's blue skill, at the beginning of each wave, Evil Queen looks into the magic mirror to mark the enemy with the most skill power. So if Kermit just happens to be the enemy with the most skill power, Evil Queen is going to mark him for the entire wave. Evil Queen is going to deal 300% more damage to Kermit, and also is going to target him with all of her basic attacks. Just the fact that Kermit has a lot of skill power can actually mean that he gets marked by these kinds of skills, and there's actually like 3 or 4 heroes that have this sort of thing. Manticore also kind of has this. Kermit doesn't have the craziest basic damage, I don't think, but Manticore targets the enemy with the most basic damage as her favorite, and she prefers to target this with her attacks and deal 50% more damage to them. This one, as well as Evil Queen, might not be the most reliable one for you, and it totally depends on what teammates Kermit has with him, but just being targeted like that can definitely help deal with Kermit. That's really all I had for countering Kermit. I really do not have very much. The number one best way is just going to be removing buffs. So we got Tron, Colette, Pocahontas, Jessie, There's a few others.
You also have silence and freeze, which are also going to be super helpful.
It's very annoying otherwise dealing with Kermit. I always just go in with Tron every single time pretty much. And then my backup go-to, depending on what their team is Mulan usually. That's really the best two that I have personally. How do you deal with Kermit? Do you have any ways that I didn't mention? I'm sure I missed something. I always miss something every single one of these videos. So if you have any kind of tips on how to deal with Kermit, or who he pairs well with, or any just unique things to do with Kermit, let me know down in the comments. I would love to know about it. And yeah, that's about all I got for Kermit for you. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, definitely give me a like, subscribe, comment, and I'm just going to keep these coming every so often here. Who should I do next in this hero overview series? Let me know down below. Yeah, so that's going to be it. Peace. Tron is almost 3 million. Holy shit.
Evil Queen is now the new background for the really good category.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Fuck them all.
I love Pooh.
Elmo, I found these nice ass glasses. Let's get the fuck out of here.